MightyNetworks versus Circle. Which one should I pick to build my community? Yeah, hey everybody, this is Ian from Mindful Marketplace, and welcome back to Serve at Scale. This is our private community podcast where we look at what can you borrow to build, what can you leverage to launch, what allows you to 10x your audience, your output, your impact, and ultimately your income on a bootstrap budget. So I'm recording this on the 23rd, actually, of April 2021. And someone asked earlier today via email, actually a client, an old client. He's not old, but they're not a Karen client. Actually, he is kind of old. Sorry, Jim. But nonetheless, about, MightyNetworks. So I'll read some of the email that he had sent, and this is something that I'm sharing in the community with some degree of transparency. I'm hiding the salient details, so not to expose anyone's private stuff. All right, so blah, blah, blah. I believe when we were working together, you had mentioned the MightyNetworks formula, which I'm going to assume was a sort of a strategy that I recommended for using MightyNetworks. And as humans, we only hear things when we're ready to hear them, blah, blah, blah. However, now we're working with a wonderful woman named, and I'll omit her name, who is using MightyNetworks to build her, and I'm going to omit the group, and having great success, I might add. She suggested we look into MightyNetworks to build our brand community. I omitted the name of the community, and get paid for it. What a wild thought. In any case, I would love to hear your experience and any insight you can provide. All right, so here's what I responded to Jim, and why I think that MightyNetworks, while it's a great platform, is not the appropriate platform for most of the people in our community who are building these sorts of platforms, sites, directories, marketplaces. Doobie, watch out, buddy. My girlfriend's dog just constantly crowds me when I'm working. All right, so Doobie, come here, buddy. Come on, sweetie. Okay, so here is the response that I made. Doobie, your breath stinks, buddy. All right, so Jim, MightyNetworks is great, but probably not the direction I would go at this point with your style directory business model. It would add a whole new layer of maintenance and management. They have almost zero search engine visibility, as most folks use the app, not the website, to share content, etc., meaning that you'll lose the vast majority of the benefit of user-generated content from a search engine basis, which, to my mind, at your current stage, is both super important for your members' visibility as well as your platform discoverability relative to other analogs, similar sites, directories, and listing communities. MightyNetworks is great for membership sites that have an interactive ecology, course communities, thought leaders, etc., and could be retrofitted for your use case, but I wouldn't use it as the SA, as the software as a service community building platform at this point. I'm also a affiliate for MightyNetworks, and I explain that, and still I wouldn't think it's a good choice relative to the universe of available options. The other thing, and I sent this in a follow-up to that thought, was MightyNetworks also makes it really difficult to white label your community. You can do it, but it's super expensive, or at least it used to be. I don't really keep up with MightyNetworks so much these days, meaning folks are downloading their app and using their brand to access your content and community, which depreciates, in my view, the value of the of your platform long term. And the last line is all community building software as a service platforms suffer from this a little bit. Some are better than others, but MightyNetworks, in my view, makes it the most obvious you are using their app, not yours, to run their business. All right, so all of that is true, and all of that is a reason why I think Circle is a much better choice if you're building this sort of community. I have found just in the, 7 or 8 months since I've been using Circle for various projects and have clients who are now using it, one of the really surprising benefits is how well they rank from a search engine standpoint. So the communities that we're building using Circle, and I'm not just talking about stuff that I'm working on, but other people in my universe or orbit who are working on, it's incredible how the search engine discoverability kind of impacts their enthusiasm and their momentum in a really positive way. Said in a more succinct way, you're going to get a lot of traffic from Google, from the search engines using Circle, that you're not going to get from a MightyNetworks community. MightyNetworks, because most of the activity is taking place in the app, right? So you're downloading this app, and then your users are using the MightyNetworks app to access your content. Again, I'm a dummy when it comes to SEO and sort of the tech specs of all this, but it's it's not a lie to say that you find almost no content in the search engines that is being created in a MightyNetworks community. Like I've been part of many MightyNetworks communities, and have had MightyNetworks communities in the past of our own. And some of you probably listening to this have been part of our communities in the past. And one of the things that was so frustrating was that we got no traffic. All the traffic was coming from our own sort of efforts in the world. There was not promoting the links to the community, asking people to visit, to share, blah, 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 blah. There was none of this natural, organic sort of, benefit to our content, especially the user-generated content, to be found. And that's really a liability, in my view, from the standpoint of building anything. I mean, you want to be able to take advantage of the, sort of natural, evolution of the content being aged in the search engines and getting trust and traffic and traction by dint of showing up for keywords and all that sort of stuff. And again, I remember people really bellyaching about this 3 years ago, let's say, in the MightyNetworks owners group. And I still find it true today. I'm still part of a couple MightyNetworks communities where there's no, I've Googled, content to test this, and I'm not finding, content that's really prominent on those private communities or in those communities that have a public face. I'm not finding any of that in the search engines, just as a matter of just testing this for myself to see if MightyNetworks would be something that I would recommend. Whereas Circle, you can clearly, I have content that has lived on Podia or Ghost or WordPress that's a couple years old that I've shared on our Circle, that the Circle is the number one listing, right? So, and the Circle's new, and the content in these other spots is old. So again, being a dummy and not claiming any expertise around SEO or those sorts of, the tags and the keyword, all that sort of SEO kind of, jargon, right? So I'm not claiming any knowledge beyond what I know, but the evidence is clear that our content is really getting a lot of love from the search engines with respect to Circle, and that's a huge thing because you want free traffic. You want your users to create content that's generating free traffic. This is what a community of this sort, can offer all of us. It's like having a content marketing team working for you for free, right? If you have 100 members of your on Circle who are adding content regularly to your Circle community, and the search engines are crawling that and taking note of that, then ultimately you're going to be the beneficiary of all that content that people are writing for you and building your brand and adding value to your platform and your bottom line. And as a rule, in my experience, and this may have changed, I'm not using Mighty Networks now, but this was never true, and I've seen a lot of people leaving Mighty Networks as a result, or at least I did when I was really active in their community. I'm still an affiliate for Mighty Networks. I would still recommend them if you're teaching courses, or you're a thought leader and want a completely privatized sort of community, or you want a you're some sort of mission-oriented company, or have a bigger budget where you're going to have a white-labeled app. They do that it's significantly, more expensive than just about what anyone that's in our immediate orbit is willing to pay. I think maybe $30,000 or something to have that. Your app white labeled on Mighty Networks. I that could be untrue now. It was, when I looked at doing this for us, it was, I think, $2,000 and some odd dollars a month, which is expensive. I mean, compared to, $50 a month for non-white labeled. Anyway, I'm babbling at this point. I do recommend Circle over Mighty Networks for these reasons and a bunch of other reasons as well. None of these platforms are perfect, and they're all growing and evolving and developing over time. Mighty Networks has gotten much better at some things than they were from when I started using them years ago. Most notably, the courses. This is something that I think is a really great thing to have as part of a community software platform. I mean, you can teach courses, take payments, and all those sorts of things. Where on Circle, you can only use Circle as a either supplement to your courses, or if you are delivering your courses on Circle, you still need to take payment from an external processor, like Memberful or MemberGate, or any of Moonclerk, or anything similar to that. So anyway, those are my thoughts. That's what I shared with Jim. And I'm hoping this sort of thing helps those of you in our community who are trying to make difficult decisions in the beginning about where to invest your time, your energy, your attention, and your income with respect to community building software. Teach what you know, do what you love, wake up the world with your work. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to everyone tomorrow.